Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to go over the suggestions passed to developers for October 2023, and this time we're going to be having a look at the aviation side of things. Now, I am going to miss out in this passed to developers the Thai Air Forces subtree. That will be its own video, and also there is, for the ground portion, a Thai Ground Forces subtree. Both of those will be their own separate videos, so don't worry if I miss them out. I will be missing out some other stuff though, since it's been passed well in the past, and I don't really feel like going over the same stuff again. Anyway, let's get into the aviation side of things. The first vehicle is the Me-262HG1. Now, HG stands for something I will mispronounce, the Geschwindigkeit, which is fantastic. It means high speed. So there you go. It was a one-off prototype meant to improve the overall performance of the base model of the Me-262A1A. The plane was assembled from the prototype V9 WNR 130004 and was modified extensively in October of 1944. The HG1 was equipped with an all-new canopy, now known as a racing canopy, meant for reducing drag, and the wing roots were extended from the frontal base towards the nose section. New horizontal tail surfaces with a 40-degree sweep, as well as an enlarged rudder extended to the end of the tail, was installed, and the aircraft's skin was also smoothed to further decrease drag. Overall drag was estimated to have been reduced by around 10 or 20%. The plane started tests in January the 18th of 1945, being flown by Karl Bauer. After only 5 flights, Bauer complained about the new tail having stability issues, which resulted in the replacement of the prototype tail with a standard Me-262 tail section. After another 20 test flights in March of 1945, the prototype is thought to have been destroyed by Allied bombings at the Lechfeld Air Base. The plane demonstrated improved speed, maneuverability, and also acceleration during its short test phase, and is stated to have approached 965 km an hour in level flight at an altitude of 6,000 meters. But the design itself was thought to be capable of withstanding speeds of up to Mach 0.83. If the plane would have ever reached the stage of pre-production, or even production, it would assumed that instead of the UMO 004B1, the higher performance UMO 004D would have been installed, the same engine currently present on the HO229V3 in the game. The next vehicle is for the USSR, and it is the Nikitin-Shevchenko IS-2. Basically, the idea of the Soviet IS, standing for Istrebitel Skladnoy, or Folding Fighter, was conceived by Vladimir Shevchenko in partnership with Vasily Nikitin. Shevchenko's thinking behind the idea was that the aircraft could take off as a biplane, but be able to fold its landing gear and lower wings to become a monoplane. As such, Shevchenko began promoting the concept in October of 1938, and in 1939, a working model of the aircraft was displayed at the Air Force Academy, named after Eni Zhukovsky, today's Zhukovsky Air Force Engineering Academy in Moscow. Among those interested by the design were none other than Stalin and also Beria. Shevchenko's team was given 76 million rubles and facilities at factory number 156 for an airworthy aircraft to be ready by the October Revolution parade in November of 1939. Despite this, it did not meet the deadline, and the sole prototype built would only fly the following year, piloted by V. Kuleshov in May 29, 1940. During testing, it was found that the plane could indeed fold its wings mid-flight, with a recorded time of about 7 to 10 seconds for completion. Following the aircraft's takeoff, the pilot would employ a pneumatic system to retract the landing gear. Another lever for folding the wings could then be selected. This lever was operated by pneumatic ram and also hinged levers on both sides, initiating the following of the lower wing. The inner portion of the wing would retract into the fuselage, while the hinged outer section would fold into the upper wing, thereby achieving its streamlined airfoil configuration. Ultimately, the aircraft was cancelled due to its low speed, even on its monoplane form. There were also several issues, one of which being that when the 4 Shikass machine guns fired while the wings were folded, there was nowhere for the spent cartridges to escape. While the IS-1 had failed, there was still enough funding for the project to create a second variant. Seizing on the opportunity, Shevchenko's team began design work on the IS-2. Intended as a more refined IS-1, the IS-2 used an 1100 horsepower M88 engine, driving the VISH-23 propeller and a large spinner. The aspect ratio was increased and the area was reduced. The landing gear system was replaced by simply connecting the main legs to the wing linkage, allowing both the landing gear and the lower wings to be folded. Other modifications was a redesign of the tail, and the tail wheel could retract into the fuselage. The aircraft's armament was improved from the IS-1, with 2 of the inboard Shikass machine guns being replaced by 12.7mm Berezin BS machine guns. In early 1941, a prototype was ready. However, whether the aircraft had its test flight is debated, with one count stating it had 4 test flights before Operation Barbarossa, and 3 others stating it was ready in April 41, but had not flown by the time the Germans invaded. Regardless, the low speed of the IS-2 compared to the faster, more streamlined monoplane designs entering service with the Red Air Force resulted in the IS-2 being left in the annals of history. While the folding fighter concept was not a success, Shevchenko would continue to design, though not build aircraft on this concept until 1947. For Japan, we have the F-15DJ. In 1975, the Japanese MOD examined the US F-15 as a potential candidate to replace the aging F-104J and also F-4EJ aircraft in service with the JASDF. A F-15C was evaluated at Edwards Air Force Base, and in December of 1975, the F-15 was picked as the winner. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries was designated as the contractor, and licensing was provided for the F-15C/D. The 2-seat F-15DJ, serving as a trainer for the JASDF, was built under license in Japan by Mitsubishi during 1981 and 97. 12 built in St. Louis and 25 under Mitsubishi. Both the F-15J and also DJ still serve to this day with the JASDF. The F-15DJ received multiple upgrades during its time similar to the F-15Js. In this suggestion, it will be based on the current up-to-date versions flying today for the vehicle. This means it gets access to all of the crazy armaments and also all of the nice setups, such as the 2 turbofans Ishikawajima Harimas, the F-100 IHI-220E with the afterburner with a maximum speed of Mach 2.5+. It also has access to AIM-9Ls, AM-3s, AM-4A and Bs, AM-5A and Bs, AIM-7Fs and Ms, and of course the Mark 82 bombs, plus up to 8 AIM-120s and the JM-61A1. This vehicle would be pretty powerful if it was added right now. The next vehicle is the FCK-1A MLU. The Air Indigenous Defense Company, or the AIDC, FCK-1A MLU, is the successor and implementation of the FCK-1CD Hsiang Chen plan, with some minor changes. The 2 prototypes, the FCK-1C and D 10005 and 10006 of the Hsiang Chen plan continued testing until 2009, when AIDC was awarded the equivalent of $500 million to upgrade 71 of the existing FCK-1A fighters. Not all of the upgrades of the Changcheng plan were accepted by the government, however, and a new plan, Changchan, was put into effect. The main difference between the Changchen plan and the new Changchan plan was that the conformal fuel tanks and subsequently slightly altered fuselage were not installed on the fighters. Everything else, including upgraded avionics, enhanced electronic countermeasures, increased TC-2 missile capacity, and integration of the TC-2A anti-radiation missile and Wanqian cruise missiles were kept and installed. Between 2014 and 17, a further 56 FCK fighters were upgraded to the new MLU standard of the Changchan 2 plan, bringing the total amount of upgraded fighters to 127. The upgraded fighters were equipped to the 3rd Tactical Fighting Wing in Taichung and the 1st Tactical Fighting Wing in Tainan. These fighters' main purpose, if war was to ever break out between China and Taiwan, had to be one of the first to engage PLA fighters at range with their TC-2 missiles, engage enemy warships with the Changfeng missiles, and destroy suppressed air bases in China with the Wangchen cruise missiles. Since as defense fighters, they have limited performance and mainly take on intermediate to long-range roles. For now, they mainly serve in practice patrol and interception shadowing roles whenever the PLA aircraft enter Taiwanese airspace. The Italians get the SAI Ambrosini S.S.4. In 1937, the engineer Sergio Stefanuti, after many studies and various prototypes of airplanes and gliders with canard flaps, decided to create his own, and with canard flaps at the top of its possibilities. The aircraft was well armed for its time, very fast, and did not have many of the problems common to front-engined aircraft. The SS-4 had the engine in a pusher configuration placed at the rear, such as synchronization of the weapons with the propeller. The vehicle was also flown on the 7th of March 1939, but on its second flight, the day after, the vehicle crashed due to a construction defect, and the pilot died in the crash, decreeing the end of the vehicle and its similars for a long time. So, as you can see, incredibly successful. It's also difficult to say how armed the plane was. Some sources speak of two 20mm cannons and one 30, others speak of one 20 and two 12.7s, and then other sources speak of three 12.7mm machine guns. So as we can tell, there's a lot of information about this thing. Also, at the same time, it had the Assotta Fraschini Asso 11 engine, which delivered 960 horsepower and allowed the vehicle to reach a speed of 540 kilometers an hour. The French get a big one. It is the Dassault Mirage 4000, aka the Super Mirage 4000. It was an independent project taken up by aircraft manufacturers in France to create a design that utilized twin engines that could exist simultaneously as the Mirage 2000 series. The primary producer of the plane, of whom provided the airframe and supervised the assembly phase, was Avian's Marcel Dassault Breguet Aviation, who in conjunction with the French government were able to acquire several Snecma M53 engines for testing with the Mirage 4000. With the addition of these engines side by side, the Mirage 4000 was able to achieve an overall thrust-to-weight ratio of over 1.1, while having the ability to store more than 3 times the amount of fuel as the Mirage 2000, as well as including in-flight refueling capability, further extending its combat range. To further increase the ability of the plane across the board, they went from the all-metal assembly of the Mirage 2000 to a design primarily utilizing composites, significantly lowering the overall weight of the aircraft while maintaining the structure of it. One of the most major changes when it comes to utilization is its sheer size. With the current Mirage 2005F, you're only capable of using a total of 4 air-to-air missiles, whereas the Mirage 4000 was capable of mounting up to 8 Magic missiles, or 4 I-530D radar-guided missiles, and 2 Magic 2s. During the project's middle stages of development, when it was trying to find buyers for the program, they looked to the Middle East of Iran and Syria. While the two countries initially showed interest, the Mirage 4000 was decidedly not chosen, as they had instead decided to utilize the new Tornado for their new aircraft. France was decidedly focused on improving the Mirage 2000, leaving no buyers for the aircraft in the market. With nowhere to go for the new aircraft, the production line of the Mirage 4000 was never able to begin, and the project was cancelled in the early 1980s, with the final flight of the aircraft taking place on the 8th of January in 1988, where it would take off for the final time, finishing the only prototype's 366th flight. We also have the J10 Vultee Vanguard, the 48C. This is a Swedish fighter aircraft which served in the US Air Force, the British Royal Air Force, and also the Chinese Nationalist Air Force. However, the plane aircraft was originally supposed to be in Swedish use, and in the early months of 1940, the Flygvapnet placed an order for 144 Vanguard fighter aircraft of the 48C variant, which in turn the Flygvapnet designated the aircraft as J10. Prior J10, they also placed an order for around 120 P-35 Seversky fighter aircrafts, which were designated as the J9 throughout the 1939. The Model 48C, which Sweden was intending to purchase, had an export version of the Pratt & Whitney R1830-33 engine with 1,200 horsepower during takeoff and around 1050 at 13,000 feet. The armament was two 50 caliber machine guns in the propeller and 4 30 cals in the wings. However, the Flygvapnet were planning on refitting the J10s with some new armament, which would have been two 8mm KSPs on the wings and two 13.2mm Akans in the propeller arch. Before any of the J10s could be delivered to the Swedish Air Force, though, the US government placed an embargo on exporting military aircraft to Sweden, along with the J10 Vanguard and the rest of the J9 Severskys, which were left to be delivered to Sweden, where these were halted. The reason for this were due to the increased fears of the Nazi regime and their ever-growing occupation of Europe, which the US government feared the fighter aircraft Sweden bought and were sent to were in the risk of being captured or confiscated by the Axis power. After the embargo on Sweden, the J-10s were subsequently sent to the British Royal Air Force and were named Vanguard 1s. These were planned to be used as advanced trainer planes in Canada. However, after the trials, they were instead relinquished to China under the Lend-Lease program, which were meant to equip the 3rd American Volunteer Group based in China, but plans were dropped after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. The Chinese were the primary users of the aircraft and saw little combat throughout the war, as many were deemed unairworthy to fly due to mechanical issues plaguing the aircraft. The aircraft which saw action was shot down by the more agile Japanese aircraft, destroyed on the ground, or mistaken for Japanese Ki-43s and Ki-44 fighters. In the end, the P-66 was replaced by the more effective Curtiss P-40 in 1943, and the rest put into long-term storage in caves in the eventual civil war against the communists. The last one is the McDonnell Douglas F-15C Baz for Israel. After the French arms embargo in 1967, the Israeli Air Force began the transition from French-supplied arms to American weaponry. The embargo made Israel recognize its need for more self-reliant arms industry, but it was not an easy goal for the aircraft. The IAF established a team named Hadish, which is new or modern in Hebrew, to evaluate requirements for the next generation fighter. However, Hadish's work stopped because of the Yom Kippur War in 1973, and the war itself shocked Israel. In search for the advanced fighters to maintain air superiority against Arab air forces, the MiG-23s and also MiG-25s, Israel began evaluating Grumman F-14 Tomcats and McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagles. While both fighters impressed Israeli test pilots, the IAF concluded that the F-15 is superior to the F-14 in all aspects relevant to IAF operations. The Israelis designated the F-15 Baz, which means Falcon in Hebrew. By the Peace Fox 1 program, Israel received first F-15As in December 1977, and follow-on programs named Peace Fox 2 in 82 added the F-15C and Ds to the IAF inventory. During 1984 and 5, IAF received another F-15CD under the Peace Fox 3 program. Before the F-15I Ra'am, Israel acquired more F-15s via Peace Fox 4 and 5. From 1979 to 1988, the Baz shot down more than 50 Syrian aircraft without a single loss. As of 2023, the IAF still operates a number of Baz along with the Ra'am. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video and have a wonderful day. See you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.